This
Now we're
conference
recording.
will now
There
be
we are.
recorded.
Okay. All right. So yes, we released the new handbook. It's nice. I'm happy that it's out there. I hope you guys all enjoy it. It's great reading. It's got some pictures now. Um, so what should we just start walking through some of the changes that were made?
Yeah, if you want to maybe just go over, some of the bigger changes, some of the
Bigger
things that
changes.
people will
Okay.
notice, and then we'll see if everybody has questions or
Okay.
things they want
Well,
us to focus on.
sure. Part of what drove even doing this is just the fact that, the handbook has been in existence for a while and it's been just sort of added on to and became sort of patchworky. So we wanted to do a reorganization, put the chapters in order so it makes a little bit more sense. In doing that, we also put section headings. So if you want to talk about a specific rule, it's easier to call out a specific paragraph rather than saying, oh, the second paragraph on page 14. There's actually a paragraph number there. So that should help our discussions when you guys have questions. Um, like I said, there were a couple changes, but most of it was just clarifying existing rules, and a lot of it was based on the comments that we were getting from people. So we knew that some things needed to be explained a little bit better. Um, we added now that let's see. We added directions for registering your dog to complete innate as a team as opposed to pairs. I don't remember exactly when that came about, but now when you have a team, you can register that team with Nate, so that team will have a number. So that's sort of fun. We've got a couple people here in Indy that have two dogs, and they've got teams now. Let's see. We removed the requirement for opaque fences in urban herding and the requirement for opaque pens. We encourage you not to touch your dog. If you're using a shepherd's crook, don't hit your dog with the crook.
Good idea.
So as part of the making everything more positive reinforcement, positive everything, we'd added some time ago. You could have treats on the field, but then we came in and we clarified when you can touch your dog. So you can touch your dog whenever they're in the handler's box with you. The only thing you can't do is you can't restrain them by their collar, except there's an exception for in pairs. If you got two dogs that don't really know each other out there, we're going to let you hold on to your dog, in addition to keeping it on the mat. We clarified the definition for a wrong ball and a foul ball. We'd had it in there before, but because now we have more games that are referring to wrong balls, we wanted to make sure we had a standard definition that would apply across all the games. We did some formatting in all the chapters. We combined all the field size and the initial formation spacing and all that into one table so that everything you need to know to set that game up is right there. We did that in all the games. Oops, I did something. There it is. Okay. Did it in standard, did it in B&O. Snooker, we did it in snooker. It was new, so it was more closer to the way we wanted it to be. We put some clarification in both team and pairs on what the inactive dog is doing while the other dog is out working. So, we said you can put your dog on the mat, but we gave some clarification on how much of the dog has to be on the mat. So you've got to have at least two paws or a majority of the dog's body on the mat until the working dog comes back. No touching it with just one foot. And if your dog lays down, most dogs, if they lay down, a majority of their body is going to be covering the mat. Okay, so one of the big changes in urban herding, two of the levels, we had more than 4 fields to choose from for video titling. So just to make everything simpler and easier to Um, that sort of came about when we were trying to figure out the best way to explain how many live trials versus how many video trials you needed to get your outstanding title. So that's what made us realize, well, let's just make it the same number of fields available for all the games. So now in all the urban herding levels, you have for video titling, you have 4 fields to choose from. Now, if you already have, videos ready to go, or you're filming them today, or in the next couple weeks, using the old field diagrams, that's fine. Just get them in. There's a deadline. I think we said 3 months, and sort of grandfather them in. If you get them in 3 months, everything's great. Added some diagrams to the skill certification chapter to help explain how the initial setup is to get those going. And then we expanded Appendix B, adding the information for team and pairs fields set up to that table. That's the high level overview of what we changed, what we added.
Margaret, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
I just looked in the rules just to be sure, but the way it's presented in your summary here in section 12.3 for pairs, it's a repeat of what you put down for teams, including the not being able to hold by the collar.
Okay, is that what? I will check on that. It's
Yeah, it's a duplicate. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a bad cut. I apologize. I think it is probably correct in the book.
Right.
It is
In
correct.
pairs. Yeah. In pairs, you can restrain them by their collar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I just thought folks that may not have played the game yet could be confused if they just relied on the summary.
right.
You were correct. Thank you.
Yep. We also added some clarification for urban herding as far as ball placement when there's multiple balls,
Yes.
where they need to be. What we had was potentially confusing, and thank Kyla for bringing up those questions.
Yep.
So in urban herding, there's multiple balls in the pen in the initial setup. It doesn't matter which ball is used to complete a task. And also we removed the numbers because that implied that the task had to be done in a particular order, which they don't. They don't have to be done in a certain order. Sort of, you have to bring a ball into the goal before you can push it back out to put it in a pen, but it's not required which way you do that. You also added a really nice diagram in chapter 6 explaining when a ball has crossed the line. I think
that's cool.
Sometimes that's caused some confusion for people.
So there's the diagram. Ball A. Okay, so this would be your handler's area and then the goal area. Ball A is coming in. It hasn't crossed the line yet. Ball B, the edge has crossed the line, but the center point of the ball, the part that's touching the ground, hasn't made it in yet. Ball C, that center point where the ball is touching the ground has now made it to the line. So that's the point where the ball will be considered in the handler area.
And that becomes very important in snooker.
Yeah. You want to get a hold of that ball and be able to roll it back out.
Right. Making sure you've made that criteria.
Any other questions? Isla's reading. She's thinking.
I haven't had a chance to look at this for the expert level of urban herding. Okay, I get it now that it's not a specific ball that has to go into a specific place. One of the two balls has to go into one of the designated places. But how far are they? Are they supposed to be touching the sides? Is one supposed to be in the corner? Is it supposed to be 6 inches out of the corner?
We added a line saying that when there's more than, and yeah, I'm sure you can find it, when there's more than one ball in a pin, because we do say when there's one ball, the ball should be centered in the pin.
Centered, yeah.
So when we say when there's multiple balls, they should be spaced evenly apart from each other and from the walls. So that would vary whether there's if you've got the tiny balls versus if you've got the extra large ones, or if it's 2 or 4. So so they don't have to be in contact, and really depending on the ball size, you're looking to try to keep an equidistance around the balls.
So the words are multiple balls in a pen shall be spaced equidistant from the other balls as from the walls of the pen.
Oh, easier. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. What was my other question? For outstanding level urban herding,
Yes.
there's now 4 options. I get that. Does it matter? Like in the standard game, it's just the standard game, so you do 10 of those. In the outstanding urban herding, is it required to do like 2 sets of 4 plus the ones you like the best for the extra 2, or is it any one you want repeated as many times as you want?
You were right on it with the first one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Margaret's scrolling.
Yep, I think I'm there.
She was on it a second ago.
Okay.
Yeah, scroll up. You gotta probably move a little more.
The first
Okay.
you need to get the OTE in urban herding video tiling. It needs 2 qualifying runs from each of the 4 fields, plus 2 more of your choice from the remaining fields, from the 4 fields.
Okay. And then naturally, I've recorded 2 of the ones that have been eliminated. I mean, just one each of the eliminated ones. So they can be my spares, and I can do 4 of the other. Okay.
And plus they count as spreading out because they're grandfathered in accepted. So
Right. Okay.
They're
All right.
I think you also, and then and as Sandy has been working through the urban
Successful
herding
at
outstanding.
today.
Yes, novice level. So sort of the same thing. And that's where if you're trying to combine live trials and video titling, we have sort of a chart to help you out. In essence, I think of it as the live trial cues are wild cards. You can use them to fill as you need.
Oh, I see. Okay. I don't think I have to worry about that anytime soon unless Eric has plans that I don't know about.
Working on it. I'm working on it.
I'm gonna say, I bet he's thinking it.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
Okay, good.
Awesome.
I have another question.
Sure.
Keep going. It's good.
So I understand about the food, and actually it's been great because I couldn't have done what I did without having that food. It would have taken a lot more time to train to get all those behaviors. Anyway, video titling is not a big deal, but I did miss a handoff, and when I tried to give my dog a treat and it dropped on the ground, so I just stopped videotaping and started over. Is that what you'd have? Is it an elimination? It
would be an NQ. Okay. At a live trial, it'd be an NQ.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one we've been working hard on because it's so easy to just stop the video and go, oh well, that was an NQ.
Yeah.
But at a trial, it's like that's one of the things. Like start planning your cookies because
Yeah.
make sure
At
it's
a
something your
live
dog can
trial,
swallow.
at a live trial, would you be asked to leave then, or would you be allowed to continue but you couldn't qualify?
You just don't qualify.
I know, still play.
Get the end too.
Okay.
Yeah, you still get to play.
Okay.
Yeah. Oops. Yep. And
And
one that's
I just
probably
wanted to
comes
give,
up.
go ahead. I just wanted to give a
Oh,
quick shout out to all the teams that are actually doing urban herding because it's been all
Yeah.
the
yeah.
rage lately. So when we created this game, everything was really hypothetical. And now we have teams that are competing at the highest level. It's really cool to see. It's also bringing up all these questions, but it's really cool to
Right.
see. So
Yeah.
thank you
Makes
all.
me
It is.
very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It
I
is cool.
remember
Yeah.
the first time I looked at it and I thought, no way. How do they think people can do this?
And
And
there
then
you are.
have something else to train,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Well, at that first trial, we hadn't even really seen it, had we? We just tried it because it was
No.
there. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, let's try this.
Yeah. It was.
Pretty
Very
much.
true.
But even then at novice and intermediate, I'm like, okay, I can see it. But when I started practicing for expert, I was like, oh, there's no way. So to see these dogs all succeeding and then, be able to watch Kyla and Riley and be like, okay, we're doing it pretty much the same way. So we're all on the same page and we're all teaching it individually. It's just really cool to see.
yeah.
So,
Okay, so I had an interesting training thing today. I was out working on my drive to a pen. I was trying to drive to the closer pen. My dog saw a squirrel at the other end of the field. He drove all the way to the other end, took the ball with him to the squirrel. It was great.
Are squirrels going to be allowed to be used now? Is that
I'm thinking
Well,
about a way to incorporate this, at least in the training aspect.
yeah. Yeah. If you had an outside field,
my dog would leave the ball for the squirrel. Thank
Well,
you.
that's
Yeah.
what I would have expected too. That's what made it so funny.
Yeah.
Push, push, push.
I've always thought
One way to get some motivation.
someone needs to market like a remote control squirrels for training, for impulse
Yeah.
control training. I'm telling you, there's a market there.
Yeah. 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 If you had an outside trial, you'd squirrels and birds, they'd be real. And
Yeah.
never know.
Good questions. Good questions.
I have one more off the wall question, but somebody else can go if they have questions, so I feel like I'm monopolizing things.
Yeah, go with it.
No, go for it.
Okay, so I'm practicing, I'm working on expert level urban herding. So I have my urban herding field set up. And my other dog is still working at pre-novice level. But he's been pretty excited about it lately. But I think, to try to get a qualifying run, I have to take down all the pens and all the stuff in order to film him on that when it's only going to be, he's veteran, so it can be 15 feet, I think. Could I just remove the pen that's closest to him in a large field and videotape a novice veteran run with the far pens in the field that are not going to be interrupting anything? Would that hurt anyone's feelings? I mean, I guess if the camera angle is right, you wouldn't even see it except for the video review of the field.
So what if you wrote it up as a field modification request?
Do that.
Right. So I imagine that. So yeah, if you take out the closer pen, and in my head I replace it with the idea that far out on the field you've got two great big trees.
Right. He is not
So
going to get that far out in the field. I can tell you that right now.
well, what we would say for that is we'd say, well, that doesn't make your game easier. It really probably can make the game harder. So I think if it'd be different if those trees were down close to where the real play action would be happening and maybe help you get into the goal. But yeah, I have to imagine we'd say, yeah, that's okay.
If he ever decides to play long enough to get 3 balls in, I will make that request then. Thank you. This is I still
That's a
can
good
win him.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's of a different sort. So
understand. So does anybody have any other questions about the rules? And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be something we've recently changed. We're all here. It's all good. Well, if we don't, how about any other topics? So the other part of this was, and thank you, Margaret, and good overview. Um, Kind of the other part that we were hoping to go for with this Clubhouse chat was just open forum, things you'd like to ask, things you'd like to talk about, um, even brainstorming subjects that are maybe much bigger that you'd like to see a Clubhouse chat on, or other material. Um, you know, instead of us just saying, "Hey, here's what we think we should talk about." What are things that you would like to have a Clubhouse chat about? Or maybe just even a quick question.
I have a logistical question.
Yes.
Good.
I can't see the pictures of everybody on this iPad, and I'm just wondering, can everybody else see everybody? And is it my iPad problem with GoToMeeting?
I can't see everybody either.
I can see most people.
Yeah,
I
I've got
see
everybody.
11 pictures and 2 without pictures. But I am on a PC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
I've
we're done
got
looking at
13
the
of them.
handbook, I wonder if you stop screen sharing, if the pictures will pop up.
Sure.
There we
Yay!
go.
Here we are.
Feels better. Awesome.
So I have a question, and maybe it is already on the website, but I thought when I looked urban herding, I thought last time I joined a call they were going to talk about like tips and tricks for doing it. And I thought when I looked on the website it said under construction. Am I not looking in the
Okay.
right place? Is there a forum to kind of, I've been playing with it myself, in my house, but, uh, trying to figure out a better way to do it.
You found it with the under construction. It's very under construction. um, I don't know, Sandy, do you want to talk to that or?
We're working our way through the various basics. We've got directional cues basics page up, but we're working more currently on the send and the push pages. And it's challenging to try to figure out what level of detail to put in there to get up the videos to demonstrate it. And regrettably, urban herding is a little bit further down our priority list because it is a more advanced game. We're trying to get the stuff for the beginners to get them started in focus first. And of course, we're all a volunteer organization, so
Yep, I completely get that.
yeah.
But you guys mentioned you did have some advance, so let me ask this then. So I've been working on the drive and I kind of have her push it around the house a little, and now I put out a pen and I'm like, okay, push it in, trying to get to a target. So, and it's real close, so I'm not adding distance. So how are you getting them to push to a direction? Are you like having them push over a mat? Is it just really repetition? Just anything, you guys, if anyone's doing it.
Well,
Eric can,
I'll speak
'cause
first. I mean,
yeah.
so there's a couple things that I would obviously recommend is that we have to start individualizing behaviors, right? So I have a different behavior for bringing the ball to me as I have for taking it away from me, and starting that vocabulary. But me in the beginning, it was really about teaching the dog where my hips are. If my hips are next to the dog when they nose it, whether it's between the wall and a couch or whether it's around a garbage can or whatnot. So I will line the dog up and ask them to drive, which is to take that ball away from me, right? As they push it out and around the couch, because the game of Treibball has always been bring it back to us, come to balance, bring it back, come to balance, bring it back. They naturally will come around and bring the ball back, right? So we have them drive it, drive. It comes out and around it. The dog naturally swings, and now I'll ask them to push it back. And I try and do that both on the away and on the come by, so that the dog can start to individualize behaviors. I did the same thing when I started setting up the pen, right? I just put myself right at the edge of the pen. So when the dog drove the ball out and around the pen, they had no choice but to come around to balance and bring it into the pen. And that's how I started even teaching them how to pen it in the beginning. And then you hit on a key component. It's repetition, right? I mean, that's dog training in
Yeah.
general.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was
I don't know.
trying hand signals like an air traffic controller, like go that way, go that way. And I
Oh,
don't think it's working.
oh, it gets even more frustrating at the advanced levels.
Right.
Yeah, not there
Yeah.
yet, but
So Eric,
Yeah.
when you have your dog drive, and then are you giving a lineup cue for when they're supposed to swing around, or is that just happening, kind of happening?
Well, so I kind of cheat because I have border collies, right? So they just naturally want to come to balance. They just come around the ball on their own. So it's actually more of a struggle for me on the drive when I'm asking her to just nose the ball. She noses the ball, but then wants to come around to balance and stop it. And I would really like her to nose it and then pause, right? So we can see where that ball is going before I ask her directionally which direction to go before she noses it again. So it's for me coming around to balance is easy and sometimes not wanted more so
Right.
than vice versa.
Hmm,
Right.
I see.
Some
Yeah.
dogs, I mean, I have a lot of dogs that don't circle the way that, especially Jet, she's a crazy dog, that don't circle the way some of these high drive dogs are. And it's a little easier to get them to drive because they hit that ball and then they look at you and like, I did it, right? But Jet hits it and has to stop it before she says, I did it. So yeah, each dog's a little different, but yeah, that's a tough challenge. It's a tough game.
So
Yeah.
Who thought
I,
this thing up?
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think that if you don't have a dog that naturally comes to balance like that, the thing that but you still have a dog that has that history of pushing for you. I started along a fence. So I have one of the fences on my yard and I put up an X pen and I put the ball at the very far end of it. And then I started on the other end with my dog in the channel and I told her to drive while I was also walking forward. And then she pushed it, it got free, and then I had her push. So it's rewarding the behavior with the push that they're familiar with. And then I just set the ball back deeper and deeper in the channel. And then we're pushed along the fence. And then I got to the point where I could do parallel free without an X pen out in the field. But I'm walking parallel with my dog, asking her to push, and then I would start hanging back and asking her to push it further. And two things helped me a lot for her was I was at the first I was trying to direct her and manage her so much. She's like, there's so much information. So I wanted her to understand the concept. So I started having it near a fence, asked her to push, and when the ball touched the fence, click and reward back. And then sometimes I'd let her go fetch it to me as a reward too. But something about that, when the ball hit the fence, being the target, that really helped her. And especially in the pen, I was trying to reinforce her when the ball crossed the plane of the opening, and that did not make any sense to her because what does that look like? She doesn't know. So I would reinforce her when the ball hit the inside of the pen. That was her click and reward moment. So then if she understood that, then I started to be able to tell her go do that thing. And then I could shut up and let her do it. It doesn't always work out, and I have to redirect and stuff like that. But once she understood that, then there was more opportunity for her to just do the task without me so much. Those were the two things that really made it click for her.
Thanks.
That's fascinating, and actually, and
We,
having watched you guys play the sport, now I kind of see because I watch her drive it into the fence and then wherever it hits the fence, and then look at you like, now it makes way more sense as to why that's happening. That is very cool. I do have one question for you though.
Uh-huh.
How did you teach such a good cross drive as opposed to taking it away and taking it back? I mean, she seems to be pretty good at
Well,
taking across the field. Uh,
actually, the one
j
that has a super good cross drive is the Tammy Harold
Yeah.
and her
Oh,
husband.
yeah, yeah. Her
right,
cross drive's amazing
right.
as well.
Her
I
cross
mean, both
drive
of
is
you guys are starting to put me to shame, and I don't like it.
very straight. Who was the first gal that got a urban herding something something? She had a border collie named Merlin,
Linda Martin.
Linda Martin.
Yes, Linda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she did a thing where I saw one of her training videos, and she had actual physical barriers. And that also helped Riley with that. Just have physical barriers, because I kept, again, it was early on, and I kept trying to direct her and come here and push there and get on this side and get on that side, and she just like brain fry, right? So I just put up a physical barrier, and then, like you said, with your hips, turn to the side so that you're facing the direction you want them to go. Look, this is a drive. This isn't coming to me. We're going over there. And then she couldn't push it to me. She would take it, if she ran it into the fence, I'd just wait, and then she'd keep pushing it over to the other pen. It hits the inside of the pen, click, yes, and reinforce.
I didn't
Um,
think about crossberry. I use fencing a lot, like you were talking about for teaching drive, for teaching even push. I use fencing a lot and increase that distance, much like you were talking about. I never even thought about using it for the cross drive.
yeah.
So, oh well, that's
What
why we have
what we
these
did with
things.
right. What we did with Tammy is, and
Gosh.
what we're pretty much doing here is we pretty much what Kyler's saying. We basically back chained and gave a name to putting the ball in the pen. Um, and we've been using remote feeders to help us get away from the pin. So, and the same thing, the criteria is hitting the back of the pin. It's not crossing the line. So hit the back of the pin, remote feeder goes off. And then the way we work the cross drive is once she had, penning and dogs pen on either side, using fences, line of fences between two pins, and basically had the dog pin to one side and then have her bring it out, pin to the other side. And same sort of thing using her body to turn, but there were fences there. So the dog very quickly, both of them understood going back and forth between the two pins. And meanwhile, she's attaching her cues, which is basically her turning her body and using the straight line, two different cues from her circling cues, in which right now her circling cues, I don't know what she uses, can buy her away. I don't remember what she uses, but she put a counter and clock to her cross drive. So they were different words um, to get the cross drive. So, she basically, and then slowly took the fences away from the starting at the center and just dropped the fences out, but not until the dog completely understood her cues of moving across. And the dogs became very solid with her cues doing it that way.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
This is
So,
great
uh,
info. Thanks, everyone.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
really
very much
appreciate
have
it.
a yeah, we very much have a distance thing, it seems like. And even on sheep, like Jet will go out 75 yards and then be like, that's as far as I can go. I got to bring it back. I'm seeing that a little bit with the Treibball. Like if I'm asking her to pen it at the 30 feet, no problem. I'll do it every single time. At 45 feet or 50 feet, she's like, wow, I can only make it 40 feet before I got to bring it back. Silly humans. So thank you guys. That's a fascinating and awesome stuff.
Kyla, you mentioned a training video that you watched. Is that something that's accessible? Oh, you're muted.
Was shared with me because I was looking for ideas for the urban herding page. So I don't know if she wants to make it public or not. And I mean, I could ask. And I don't know if I have any videos of my own fencing setup. Maybe I could look and see if I don't video every run or every practice, fortunately.
Yeah, anybody training urban herding and wants to, take any and share any training videos, that would be awesome.
I'll start taping some. I don't tape a lot of my training, but I absolutely will. So
Oh, that'd be awesome. Well, what about snooker? I'd love to hear some snooker tips.
go fast.
Get points. I don't know.
You don't have any time to think.
Balls all the way in the goal. That's my tip.
Yeah. There's no time to mess around.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing with snooker is after you get them used to the way things look on the field, is really having your directional cues down and being able to ask them to push and say break things up, and being able to move them to a different ball. A lot of the same skills that are in B&O, but also being able to quickly change your path in your head when it's not going right. If you get stuck on something, trying to get something done, the clock's ticking. And we have some really pretty short times on those snooker runs.
I have a question. I'm sure it's in the rule book, but on snooker, if let's say I'm going for, all 5 like max points and I hit max time, I still queue, right? Because I have enough points. I just bring my dog in, downer, and finish the run.
Correct. It's basically when the time's up, the run's over. You don't even have to bring your dog in and down them. The clock just stops. And you have whatever points you have.
And I
So,
love snooker. I've loved it in agility. I always understood it early on, so it's great that it's here. I do have a question on the gating. Now it has to be solid for the goal. Can you use a sheet or like a roll of paper over the lattice to cover it? Does that suffice?
that word solid got us.
Yeah.
It doesn't. We talked about we even debated maybe that's not a good word. It doesn't have to be solid, like not
Like a
see through.
wall.
It doesn't have to be like a wall. By solid, I mean, we've had people, and we've seen the goals are really not sturdy at all. They flop around. They do have to allow the ball to play on it, off of it, and we debated saying that it can't permit dogs to go through either. But we decided, well, the dogs can't go through it, but as long as it prevents balls from going through it, it's really up to whether you want to make it like lattice so that the dogs can't get through, or you just want to treat it as a training thing. So you don't you don't let them do it. You train them to not go through there. So solid just really meant that it's sturdy enough to be played off of, and it doesn't permit balls to roll through. That was our actual intent with that word.
Okay, because ours
but
are
it
like,
doesn't have to be opaque.
okay, I think ours are just PVC pipe to make like 2 or 3 rows. So the balls could
Mm-hmm.
not go through it. A dog could walk through it, but I think we just know that that's not allowed.
Right.
Yeah, but we've
So
had a lot
major
of
fine, you know,
submissions. We had more than one submission with dogs going through that
yeah,
fencing, and that's what brought this whole thing up to begin with. So
And maybe
if it's enough to
it's
allow it, it very well could happen.
okay.
right, right.
So that meant
So it just might, you know,
we had to rechange our wordage because we have people submitting video with dogs walking right through that fencing. So obviously the wording we had before wasn't good enough either. So we're trying to
yeah.
find that
So
right
we
word.
struggled.
So it,
We
so
apparently
then
still are working.
okay, so then maybe it doesn't have to be solid. We can continue to use it with just the understanding that if a dog goes through, it's an
Right,
automatic NQ.
Yes.
Got it.
right.
Thanks.
You got it. You betcha.
Good question.
Thank you.
We talked
Yep.
about that one a lot.
Yep. Yep. And then we'll go back and we'll read the rules like, wow, that's what this meant. But I can see where someone might not realize it. They might get a different interpretation. So,
Yeah, because I was talking to someone today and we're like, okay, if we need solid, maybe we can put a sheet over it, or maybe we can get like, that roll of white paper or brown
yeah.
paper and make it look solid. But okay.
Yeah. No, just the dogs can't go through it. Do we have any other questions or thoughts? I'm sure we're trying to put some urban herding things together. We've got a few ideas to put out for snooker, but those are still in the works.
So
Well,
how about a more general question?
yeah.
I can't understand why Treibball is not already more popular than it is. And I started to think, well, Kyla, you have a big field to play in and you can video title at home and all that stuff. And a lot of people can't. And I think a lot of people do agility and they don't have a big field at home that they can, but there's classes and stuff available. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the growth of the sport has been and if you're seeing an upsurge or what's kind of the expectation, but I see it as being such a good game for so many dogs and people. It's not so physically
Mm-hmm.
demanding as agility for either the dog or person, and it's fairly accessible to at least some training at home. What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. I know I've recently heard a number of people say um, it's the sport they're going to go to when they can't do agility anymore. Like they're and they don't mean it in some bad way. They're just like, when I can't run as fast as my dogs anymore, I'm going to go to Treibball because that's a great sport. I'm like,
You know,
okay,
So,
Chris,
you could start
Chris,
now.
it also works when your dog can't do agility anymore too.
Right, right.
so one
Definitely.
thing I tell, because I do agility as well, one thing I tell people is that when I started Treibball, I got better distance work with my dog in agility. So that's almost my selling point to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, come do Treibball. It will help you with your distance and agility because the dogs learn to work away from you more.
I agree
I
So,
with
had
you.
That's
My
definitely one
young
I
dog
used.
got way better distance once he just started Treibball. He was way more comfortable with being away from me.
yeah. So
Well, I
just a selling
started it
Very
point.
true.
just to train something new to build confidence. And you guys all the people that know me, I mean, I get comments everywhere I go with people that knew my dog when he was returned to the breeder, and they're like, "Oh my God, you've done such good things with him." And I always credit Treibball. But I just got back from the Aussie Specialty 2 weekends ago, and so many of those people are like, "Where do you learn to do this?" and all that. I'm like, "You guys, there's so much stuff out on YouTube." And I'd show them just a little video or whatever, and they're like, "That is so fun." And I think that we just need to all work to try to get the information out there.
Hmm.
You know how we all talk about our dogs anyway.
Yeah, it's exposure, getting
I
it out there.
started because my dog had his hip replaced, and Chris was so kind as to come and give us lessons, and the dog loved it, and it made his life, it changed his life because he went from nothing to do because of no agility, which he loved, to, oh, this is fast and fun. And he's
Hmm.
going to be 9. He's had a
Awesome.
great time doing it. So it kept him from becoming a depressed dog. It really, and me a
Yes.
depressed person because he couldn't run.
Yeah, he's doing great. Yes.
So I think
Well, I
we need to
use
tell our stories.
yeah, I use actually Treibball foundations before I put dogs on sheep. So because sheep herding
Hmm.
and Treibball foundations are exactly the same, and if I don't see impulse control in a dog on a ball, how the hell am I going to let him bite my sheep in the butt, right? So
Yeah.
and you're still teaching your dogs how to come around to balance. I mean, there's so many skills that are
Hmm.
exactly the same, which is why we were so stunned there was no urban herding titling game itself. So,
Hmm.
but beyond that, to really go back to the question at hand, we're seeing the sport grow. I mean, we're seeing growth. I mean, even in this organization, I'm we're seeing growth. So there's a lot more people in this club now than there was when I joined it a few years ago. I mean, it's
Hmm.
it's exponentially grown with us adding more games and kind of the whole works. And it's even down to a point when I was originally trying to teach Treibball about 7 years ago when nobody wanted to play the game. Nobody knew what it was. But now I say Treibball to people, and more people know what it is now than don't. And I think that's a big switch, at least around here in the
Hmm.
Portland area. So
Well,
I'm
And
excited.
one too.
posting videos on Facebook. I get so
Yeah.
many people that comment on it. They're like, "I love it when you post those videos, and it's so fun, and I'd love to learn how to do it."
Hmm.
So when I see them, I try to talk it up, you know?
Right. And it's getting those and videos and the demos. It's, go do a demo and everybody's like, I've never seen it. This is great. I want to do this with my dog. And seeing those dogs that go out and they just you can tell they're having a really good time playing it. And because when you read it on paper, you have to admit it really doesn't sound very fun, you know? Or if somebody even describes it, watch a dog playing it, whether it's on video or in a demo or something, and it's so clear they're having a great time. So things like doing the demos, putting the videos out there, getting those shared, I think it's great. I don't know how many people I've told some of you already. Um, uh, a lady who's got some classes going in Louisville, Kentucky, she just posted a video. She has on her business page, she has a 97-year-old woman who is playing Treibball with her little dachshund. So, this little dachshund is like, okay, that's not the typical breed you expect. And I could think 97-year-old. I hope I'm doing a new game when I'm 97 years old. It's really cool, but getting that video out that's like, look, non-traditional dog. It's not a herding dog, not what we think. Um, and it's really cool to see getting it out there.
And I'll say but right before COVID, we had a booth at the Association of Professional Dog Trainers conference, and we
Hmm.
had a loop of just dogs playing Treibball on playing at the booth the whole time, and that booth was packed the entire weekend. People just loved watching it, and everybody's like, "Ooh, how can we do this with my dog? How can we do this with my dog?" I don't know how much of it transferred over to people joining Nate or not, but holy Moses was that booth popular. So people really enjoy seeing it. So now we need them to all train their dogs to do it and come to us specifically.
That would be the goal.
But other than that, your wish list is kind of small, Eric.
Is
I
there
don't feel like I'm asking too much.
is there competition? Is there another group? I mean, ATA dissolved, right? Or went by the wayside. Is there another organization that's also doing?
Not
There's
really.
there's Push Treibball. I don't know what anybody knows about them, but I happened to see
Ah,
somebody doing Push Treibball pop up on the Facebook group that's just called Treibball.
Somebody mentioned to me sheep ball or something with the what's that lady's name?
Hey, Lawrence.
Kay Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah, that's
I haven't
I've been to her
looked.
seminar, and that's it's really a bit more. She uses holy roller balls. It's more of a training
Oh,
technique. Like it's it's a training technique that she
okay,
uses, and she uses
okay. I'll look
balls,
it up. Mhm.
and it is pretty cool. But it's not tribal.
I have another snooker specific question. Um, so it says the highest score in the fastest time wins, and you just said, Chris, which is new information to me, that the dog doesn't have to come in and down if they run out of time. So there doesn't have to be a closing as long as they have the minimum points, if I'm understanding correctly. But so which takes precedent, the highest score or the fastest time?
So highest score, it's highest score, and then if you have two identical scores, the faster one wins.
Okay, I get it now. Okay, the highest
Yeah,
score in the fastest time if they're the same score.
right,
As,
right.
okay.
Kind of like rally. Best score wins, but time comes second.
Okay.
Just so you know, what I really like about us is that we actually get to play snooker. I can't tell you how many 2-second agility snooker runs I've had. One jump, whistle, see ya, buddy. Yeah, at least we get to keep playing our game.
I never got snooker when I was doing agility. Like, yeah, I'll do urban herding first, and then I'll tackle snooker. Chris, you
I'm with you.
I've watched every snooker run that's been posted, and I just watch them, and then I'm like, I don't understand. I read the rules again, and then I watch the run, and I'm like, I don't understand. How do I understand this game? Someone help me. It looks fun.
So, Chris, you
It
mentioned
is
something
fun.
about once your dog is used to how the field looks. Did you do something specific, or do you just mean, did you introduce the things gradually? Like, remember, here's a line of balls, or whatever. How did you achieve that?
So when with novice, what we found, if you look at the novice, there's a ball formation, but it's off on the left as you're standing in the goal. And then there's a straight line on the right side. And then in the center of the field, the furthest out, there's a ball. And it's pretty universal. You send your dog out the first couple of times, and believe it or not, they try to go to that 5 ball that's way out there. They'll pass right by that set of, because the formation is in novice is way over to the left. And it's interesting how many dogs are like, yep, they go out to that furthest. It's like, yeah, no, back over here, back over here. So that one's, it's more just getting them used to the idea that they don't go out to that 5 ball in novice, and they pick that up pretty quick. So that one's not
Do
too bad.
you use your position within the handler box to cue that also? Like, are you shifted
Yes.
over to the left?
Yeah, we shift almost everybody. Well, Yeah, for the most part, we tend to shift to the left, but a lot of it is um, having a stop cue and being able to send them back. So if you have a good stop cue, a good center cue, something that says stop and center right there, they very quickly, oh, okay, you want me to stop here behind this group of balls. Um, and like I said, that one they overcome pretty quickly. Um, where we see it start to make a difference intermediate and up though is there's that line of 3 balls in the toward the front wherever the rollback line is. Dogs who have been consistently trained to just get the closer balls, that's the what it tends to be harder for them to just from the get-go go by that row of balls in the front and get around and get out to that formation out back. So what tends to help is leave the row of balls in front off at first and just make that diamond shape with the 4 red balls, and then even include the 5-point ball and get them used to going out that distance with that formation, and then go back and add the balls at a closer at that the balls 2, 3, and 4 in that closer line. So again, it's not too bad if you do break it down for them, but if you don't, as far as they're concerned, that's just a bunch of balls on the field, and I don't know what you want. So it does help to break it down for them.
I'm looking at the handbook right now. That's on those formations are on page 35. There's 2 formations. The first one, 10
Yes.
point, figure 10.1 says
Aha, see?
small field A with novice snooker. And then 10.2 says large field with snooker. Which games, which levels is that for? Is that intermediate and up?
Yes. Intermediate and up, yes. I am pretty sure, I could be lying, except for veterans, right. Intermediate and up
Yeah,
needs to be
just the
play on the large
position.
field,
Yeah.
unless you're a vet. So
Is
yes,
it
novice can be played on the smaller field.
is it described somewhere in written form? Oh, I never mind. So the balls 2 and 3 are lined up with the edge of the handler's box. Okay.
Yep.
And
hmm
okay, and in novice, the point ball is lined up with the edge of the handler's box.
Yes.
Okay, I get it now. All right, never mind.
Right. And in fact, one of the things that I've had a few dogs. So the thing about the novice level is you have a triangle and it's way off to the side. And so, that looks like the 3-ball triangle. And they can bring any one of those balls in first. They don't have to get the further back red point ball. But for what's best is if they do go get that point ball, because what's interesting is you see the dogs, at least I saw with mine, I've seen a couple others, you let them just go out there with that little triangle formation and bring whichever ball they want, and then you go back and do a standard or B&O formation, and you can see them go, oh no, I'm pretty sure I can do whatever which one I want now. It does help to, if you maintain, they should get that point ball first, just from an overall training picture. So it's one of those, the choices you make in snooker can impact how the rest of your games play.
Okay, I have 2 questions if no one else does. So when you send a dog out to the formation and they don't touch the point ball first, they touch, the second row. If they touch every other ball, is that a fault each time, or is it just one
Oh.
fault? One fault.
You can only,
Okay.
in a run, you can only get one intentional disturbance of the formation and one unintentional.
Okay. I didn't
So,
know if that meant you could only get one, otherwise you NQ, or if
no,
each one was an occurrence and okay.
right, no.
Um, then my second is just, and I don't even know if it's logistically possible, but for virtual trials, would there be a way for a club to submit everything together and so you could actually have placements and stuff if you wanted to?
We've not done it. That doesn't mean it's not possible.
I don't even know if
That's an
people are
interesting question.
into that, but I think when I first started and we submitted everything back to ATA, and I guess we thought we would get, oh, here's first place, second place. Thought we would also get what we did wrong. We didn't get that either. But just, I don't know, would clubs be interested and would it be logistically possible to say, hey, here's everyone who ran, we'll give them X time to submit and you place them as well?
Oh,
Or is that too
yeah.
much of a hassle? I don't know, just a thought.
Hadn't considered it. I don't know. I think it's
That
something
could
we
be
can think
fun.
about. Yeah. I'm sure there's a way.
So I don't understand. Are they meeting physically in the same place? And so then why aren't you just having an in-person trial? I'm
Because we
sorry.
don't have a judge.
Because what?
We don't have a judge.
Oh, okay. Duh. All right.
So, but we do, we kind of designate a day for our students to say, okay, we're going to trial, do a 1 day or 2 day trial. Come in, here's what we're running. We're going to do like standards and get all those in.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, just again, I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if people are interested, just something I had thought about in the past or what I originally
Mhm.
thought was going to happen when we started Treibball. Yeah.
Yeah. We should chew on that idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And then the club
Um,
would provide the placement ribbons, right? Or you guys don't do that?
yeah. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, one thing our club has done is like just held videoing days when people could come in and videotape their runs and submit them. So I would guess even if Nate didn't like organize some way of judging all your stuff together, you would get your results back and your club could take everybody's results and say, okay, you get first. Your time was, you'd have the information.
Well, it goes back to the individual person. So everyone would have to submit
Yeah.
their information back.
Sure,
Right.
sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's an option too.
But if you wanted to do something as a group, you could hold like video day.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say you
That's
do. Yeah. Yeah. Just a way to add a competition factor to it instead of
yeah.
it being just qualifying. Yeah.
So just a thought.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Even just a way to
Wouldn't
have
that
a
basically
virtual
be a match?
competition. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but a match still has a judge normally, don't they?
Yeah, but they don't have to be a
A
certified
sanctioned
judge
judge,
or
correct.
sanctioned
Right.
judge. Yeah.
Because results, if we want our results, we still have to videotape them and send them in to be judged from the matches.
Maybe we
Two of
need
my
to
So
throw
early,
you a judge there in Pennsylvania. There's a way to do it too. We'll build a
I
judge
was gonna say
in
there's a match
Pennsylvania.
then. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, that's hmm. To chew on that. See if there's a way.
I mean, yeah, because originally we kind of, I guess, created our own scribe sheets and we would put in like the times and stuff. Now you
Hmm.
guys do differently because it's when you enter the ring and stuff. Um, but we submitted everything, or I don't know if we originally said, here's all the people that trowed, and it didn't come back that way. But just, yeah, if you wanted to add competition at a virtual level.
That's an interesting thought. We should get some of us together and chew on that offline and see if we can come up with a way to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost think just, here's who running, the size, what level, and,
Hmm.
even the club could even group it and, here's the numbers. And then when you guys judge
Hmm.
them, like, okay, we got submissions. And maybe
Hmm.
that caveat is you have to submit it within X
Right.
days or something so you don't have people lingering. But
Right. Right.
We could broaden it and do like a quarterly where we look across all the video submissions, group them by, novice snooker or whatever, and say across all the people that submitted in that period and were queued, how did they fall out amongst their peers?
and that's an interesting idea because then that's cross state.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And what I was thinking, even almost like a league type thing. When Sandy said quarterly, it's like, yeah, you almost could run it like a league.
Throughout a time period that would give people enough
Yeah.
time to have something and then submit it and get it judged.
Hmm.
And
That I do too. All right. I see a committee forming. How do we have virtual competition? Yeah. So maybe we'll put out a call, see who would like to, a call for people who might want to be involved with trying to create a virtual competition option. And let's see if we can get some interest and come up with some sort of method that would work.
Good.
Cool.
All right. Are there any more questions? We're getting to the end of our hour.
passed it.
Yeah. But
Okay,
you know,
I have
nothing
one more
going on.
question. I can't help it. So,
Okay.
and then I promise, I'm just curious. The rules say dog and handler come in, dog is on leash. But as soon as you come in the gate, you could technically take your dog off leash at that point. If you're just taking a chance that they might disturb the balls if you're not. There's nothing that says in the rules they have to be in the handler area or the goal box, goal area.
Correct. They do have to get there. You're right. It's kind of presumed you would walk all the way in and get them in the handler box or goal before you took it off.
Because that
But there's
increases the
nothing that
risk of them being in the box and stepping 1 foot out and your time starts.
right. It's kind of, yeah. Because as soon as the
Well,
dog, as soon as the judge says you may go, at that point, I mean in a trial setting, at that
Right.
point, the dog takes a step and your clock starts. But yeah,
and
I
how
think
would
it's
that work
Because I saw,
virtually?
pardon?
How would that work virtually? So if does the dog and handler both have to be in the box and then as soon as the dog leaves, or what if the handler gets there and the dog's already been in and out before the handler's ready?
that's where we usually So in general, we haven't, you guys can correct me, I don't think we've seen any problems with it because everyone pretty well uses the leash all the way in. But that's where using the phrase, and it's when there's no judge, using the phrase "we are ready." As soon as the handler says, "we are ready," the next time that dog steps out, that clock's going to start.
So
If they don't say "we are ready," then we just assume that, and in general, we haven't seen anything to make us question it. Dog comes in, yeah.
It came
We
up, I
haven't
think,
seen it.
because I dropped the leash on the way to the handler box. Like we came in on leash, and then I turned or something, and it slipped out of my hand, and I'm like, I think I'm okay, because we came in on leash. I just picked it up, and I thought there is no rule that I have to be in the handler box. I don't think
there is.
Correct.
Is there?
Yes.
Is there?
Okay.
Yeah. Section 6.2, game start.
6.2.
Yeah, the handler walks the dog on leash to a starting position within the handler or goal area.
There
Is
it
that
is.
new? I don't remember seeing that.
No, it's not new.
Okay. Within the handler goal area. So I have to look and see if that's one that, if it's going to be a problem that I dropped the leash.
I actually have one where the student dropped the leash on the way out of the field, and then grabbed it again and then finished exiting.
And that was
So the dog
okay.
was on leash, but they dropped the handle. Is
Right.
what you mean, Monica? Yeah. Dog was still on leash.
The leash was not in the hand.
I think in general, it's been pretty above fair to say, okay, that was a glitch, but it wasn't the principal part of what we're trying to do here. The dog was under control, yada, yada.
And they didn't drop treats with the leash.
Right.
What's that?
They did not drop any
And
treats with the leash.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And that is, and I think it was Kylie saying, pretty much it's not the principal part of the game. So as long as the dog appears to be under control, we're not gonna find a reason to take points or NQ or something like that.
Okay. Okay. I'll be quiet now. Thank you very much for answering all my questions.
Good questions. All right. Are we all happy?
I think good.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. That was fun. Good questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the handbook revision. I know that was a big job.
Turned out well.
Yes, thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All
Turn
right.
the recording
Bye.
off.